Shashank, quite a bit of news to talk about today. I feel like
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
yeah, lots of drama, lots of things. It's exciting. So
I would have
yeah,
to say this is the most exciting presidency that I've you know heard of. There's a lot of new executive orders. Elon's kind of taking over the financials of the government, and somehow still has his hands in the AI world, and made a bid for OpenAI at close to $100 billion.
yeah, it's
Yeah, what do you think about
crazy.
that?
Yeah, I'm with you. The uh presidency for the last week has it only been like a week or two? I don't know because what's today? Today is February 13th, and when did he start? It was like January, not January 6th. That was when the thing happened. We could we'll figure it out. Shashank is looking it up, but it hasn't been very long.
Yeah,
Jan 20th?
yeah.
Okay, so it's been January 20th. So it's been like 3 weeks since Trump got elected. And man, we now have what the Gulf of America, uh, Canada almost become like the 51st state. We might now hold Panama. Greenland could be a state too. Who knows? Uh, Things are changing wildly. And uh, Elon Musk is now practically running the government. I mean, it seems like he's the vice president now. I don't know what Danny Vance is doing, but it feels like Elon Musk is getting close to becoming like the vice president, or maybe even like the true president of the United States. Who even knows at this point?
Well, JD Vance was trying to make some decisions on AI policies. I know we're going to talk about this later,
Yeah.
but he was at the Paris AI summit saying that the US is not going to take part in the coalition that they have to work together to bring about like a safe AI. They didn't want to slow down the progress. That was their rationale. And they want to go full steam ahead. And the European laws are just too restrictive in their eyes. And JD Vance was like, no, we're not going to join the coalition, which has most other countries except the US and UK.
Oh, really? So only the U.S. and U.K. decided not to join.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, did China join?
That's a good question. I don't think China explicitly joined because they're usually not a part of world treaties in general.
Well, I mean, I feel like at this point, the United States doesn't really see the rest of Europe as competition for AI. I mean, there is Mistral, right?
Mm.
That's making that open source model, but I can't think of too many other like major AI companies in Europe.
Mhm.
Now, somebody in the comments, if you know of any like major AI company in Europe that's doing kind of foundational research other than Mistral, let me know. But I cannot think of any. The only kind of news I've heard out of Europe, aside from Mistral, is they've had a lot of regulation around AI,
Yeah.
but not much else. So,
Well, I think for some reason the Middle East is investing like something on the order of $30 to $50 billion in France to build more AI data centers. I'm assuming because Mistral is there and they want to kind of partner with a strategic company to, I don't know, fund all of their research that they're developing over there. Because the Middle East has a lot of money and they've been investing a lot into their own data centers. And now I guess they're moving to Europe too.
I wonder if the Middle East would be a good place to have data centers because they have a lot of oil, right?
A
So,
lot of energy.
like, if you have all the energy, I mean, one of the biggest bottlenecks of these data centers is the energy. So maybe you could think, let's use some of that Saudi oil and then like run some data centers off it, or like not even the oil, but they have a lot of sunlight, a lot of empty land. You can have like solar or whatnot too. Keep it green. So
Especially because I think the oil industry is kind of like the luxury goods industry where they kind of control the supply and create artificial scarcity and control the oil prices at a global scale. But if they were to just open up all those oil wells, and just let the oil gush out and collect as much as they could like dramatically reduce the price
they could,
and
yeah.
get really cheap inference.
That is a good point because wasn't it like G42 that was investing in all of those Cerebrus chips?
That's right. Yeah.
And because G42 there, I think Saudi Arabia or somewhere in the Middle East.
It's UAE. It's based in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
But they might have investments from multiple countries in the Middle East.
Okay. John, weren't you born in Abu Dhabi?
I wasn't born in Abu Dhabi, but I grew up there
You grew up in
and
Abu Dhabi. Okay.
stayed there for about 10 years, most of my schooling. They have a lot of wealth, and as much as their reliance is entirely on oil, or it used to be for a long time, they've, with the amount of wealth that they have, the sovereign organization has decided to invest all of that wealth into future technologies, AI being one of them. They've brought tons of Western universities from the US, UK, and created local branches, and they try to educate their locals in emerging technologies, renewable resources, and a lot of AI. So yeah, I think they're doing a great job. I think they're very well positioned for this new revolution.
Is there a big tech scene in Abu Dhabi?
Well, I think I was last there about like 15 years ago, so it's been a long time. But from what I hear, it's a very progressive place to build startups. It's a tax haven. You don't need to pay any taxes. I think it's very easy for crypto companies to work out of there because they have very liberal crypto laws too. And there's a lot of digital nomads. I don't know of any large company, like a large single company that's based out of there, but a lot of startups I've seen moving to Dubai for, tax purposes.
What's the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi? Are they like the different
States?
Oh, so it's different states in the same country?
Yeah, they're different Emirates. It's the United Arab Emirates. Like we have the United States over here. They're called Emirates, and there's 7 different ones, and each one of those has, different characteristics. But the 2 main ones are Abu Dhabi, which is the capital, and Dubai, which is kind of like the commercial hub.
Okay, so the UAE is one country. So they share the same government?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Same sheikh, who's the king, so to speak, and he's the solo ruler of the entire country. And so far, he's been making good decisions.
Interesting. So if you had G42, which is an Abu Dhabi company, it's kind of like Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It's like the entire UAE is sort of buying or investing billions of dollars into different server companies. So for those that are new, Cerebrus is a company that we've talked about in the past. They make super fast inference chips. So if you want to learn more about them, we have another episode. I don't remember what it was called, but it was our interview with Matt Su. And super interesting interview. Matt is a guy who knows a lot about a lot, and a super fun one to talk to. For the first hour, we talked for an hour about the benefits of the Cerebrus chips, and then we just went off into philosophy. So it was a lot of fun. I highly recommend you listen to that. That was pre us recording video. So there is no video of that, but we do have the audio up for you guys. But anyways, we're 9 minutes in, and yes, you gave me the news story about Elon Musk spending $100 billion. So let's bring it back to that. I know we went off a little bit, but yeah. So Elon Musk offered to buy OpenAI for $97.4 billion this week.
That seems below market value. SoftBank is, I think, investing about 40-something billion at a $260 billion valuation. So
is it really a $260 billion valuation?
Supposedly. I don't know if this is like just an intent, or this deal is how far along they are, but that might be the new valuation.
Okay. Well, I suppose that there's a difference between investing some amount of money at a given valuation. So it's like, okay, I buy, technically, you could do this in extreme. I'll give you $1.
Sure.
$1. Sure. one billionth of a share, and then like technically now your company has $1 billion valuation. Now,
There's a popular YouTuber who is technically the richest man on the planet with this kind of a scheme.
yeah, so it's like, all right, I have 1 trillion shares of my company.
Sure,
so you
sure.
sell you one share for $1.
But to be fair, $40 billion is a big chunk.
Yeah, I mean, so that's true. But Elon Musk would have had to offer up even more money for that, right? So 97.4 billion. I mean, that's a lot of billions. That is a lot of billions in order to get this. But anyways, the thing is there's a lot of people who are going back and forth about this. A lot of people on interwebs are saying like, "Hey, what's going on here? Like, is Elon Musk serious with his offer?" And I mean, I think in my mind, Elon Musk probably, if he probably assumed Sam Altman wouldn't take the offer, right? I think that he thought, all right, there's no way. But I think that Elon Musk is just trying to make Sam Altman's life. Sam Altman, for those that don't know, is the CEO of OpenAI. So Sam Altman, I think he is not well liked by Elon Musk. Could be an understatement. Elon Musk, I think, needs no introduction. I think everybody should know who Elon Musk is. The CEO of Tesla. He's also the CEO of XAI. The
SpaceX,
yeah,
Neuralink, Boring Company, head of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, probably a bunch of other things, and now also trying to buy OpenAI. And like a lot of this negotiation is taking place on Twitter. And Sam Altman replied jokingly with just like 10% of his offer, 9.7 billion offer for Twitter. And he's like, you know what? I'm not interested in your OpenAI offer, but I'll buy Twitter for you if you really want.
Yeah. So I think that Elon Musk would actually probably be happy to buy OpenAI at 97, because maybe OpenAI is worth 240 billion. I don't know. I feel like a lot of that is SoftBank trying to prop up their investment. I feel like there could be a little of that there. I think maybe OpenAI, you could argue, is worth closer to 150 billion. I don't know. But honestly, I don't even know if it's worth even that much, just because they're not profitable. I mean, they probably could be, but they're spending all their money training these models. And it's like,
in my mind, they are the best company providing inference for these models. It's I saw an analogy. It's like they were comparing OpenAI to Coca-Cola, and everyone knows Coke. That's the soda that you go to buy, even though you have cheaper alternatives, generic no-name brands, RC Cola, or you have Pepsi, which there's like a small dedicated following for that. But really, Coke has won the race in sodas, and I feel like OpenAI is that equivalent. It's a household name. Companies when trying to pick between models, no one's going to get fired for picking OpenAI. There are smaller niche research houses. I think Anthropic probably has the best single shot model, way better at coding than most other models. Obviously, we talked about DeepSeek, which is the open source, cheaper alternative to OpenAI's models. But I think they have such a big lead. They were the first. They're the most popular, and they probably have tons of research in the pipeline too. I think they have the most fully fleshed out product out of anyone. Not to mention, they have text, they have multimodal, they have image generation, now video generation. There's very few companies that can compete with OpenAI across all of their product portfolio, except for maybe Google.
Yes, I agree. Right. I mean, OpenAI is really the company to beat in this space, although there's a lot of competition. And I think that people are a lot less loyal to OpenAI than they are to Coke, right? I think the switching cost is really low.
Why do you think that?
why do I think the switching cost is low? I mean, I can just switch the website I go to, right? I don't have to go to chat.com. I can go to, gemini.google.com, or I can go to anthropic.com, or I can go to, I think it's like chat.mistral.com.
I would say it's easier to pick up a different bottle of soda, but the benefit of sticking with one company is that it retains all of your context. It knows everything about you. I've been talking to ChatGPT for years now, and it just knows so much about me. And I don't want to bring all of those chats I have about nuanced topics that I was discussing with it and special projects that I have going on and port that over to a completely different platform.
Yeah, but how many people do you think actually have been talking for years and are storing all their context? Like for me, like I switch these models really frequently, and I actually don't even really want the model remembering a bunch of context about me. I'm okay just doing something, having a new conversation every time, because I want something fresh. I don't want all that baggage with me.
I mean, I think we're both outliers, but maybe you more so. I think you're probably running incognito on your browser right now and don't save anything ever. I think maybe like the average person is somewhere in the middle. I'll give you that.
Okay, sure, yeah. So, like, I mean, I personally think that the barrier to entry is fairly low. I mean, sure, I think that I'm wondering if, I don't know, but hypothetically, I think that OpenAI could be like the Internet Explorer of the future, right? Because Internet Explorer used to be the predominant player, right? It was, everybody used that browser,
Yep.
right? And then now pretty much everybody uses Chrome or some sort of Chromium variant, right? But that doesn't mean that people will keep using it if there is something better, right? So I think Chrome came along. It was a lot better than Internet Explorer, and I think that consumers are fickle. If there's a reason to go and then find another model, like maybe you get a Chinese company, like maybe something like DeepSeek, maybe we'll get something like Quen, or Anthropic will lower the prices, or maybe people will use Facebook, or maybe they'll even just honestly just use Google, right? Because people are already using Google search. The LLM is baked right into the browser. Like after they do the search query, why would they even need to use something like ChatGPT? It might be like if you just get all your answer with Google and search, like you may not even need to use it. So like I agree that at the current state of the world, OpenAI is the top dog, but I'm not sure if that will continue to be true.
Sure.
In like 2 years. Like I think it's possible that this is the top of the market for OpenAI specifically.
Oh, unless they reach AGI first.
I hope they do. I don't know. But anyways, getting back to the $97.4 billion offer. Apparently, there is some talk about Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. He wanted to turn OpenAI into a for-profit. Now, isn't it kind of ridiculous that OpenAI is officially a nonprofit right now? I mean, that's insane.
It still is? I thought they're like it's a special capped for-profit structure within a nonprofit.
Yeah, so OpenAI, with their $240 billion valuation, is a nonprofit. It's in the name.
I think
OpenAI.
I think that's the capped for-profit arm under the nonprofit.
Well, so and it's still a nonprofit, right? Like if I have a nonprofit that owns a for-profit company, wouldn't like the umbrella company be the nonprofit? So it's like you go all the way up. It's like
it's unprecedented. It's unprecedented for sure.
Yeah.
The umbrella company is still a nonprofit, but I think the for-profit arm is controlled by the nonprofit, which has some interesting structure to make sure people are working for the benefit of mankind.
I mean, I guess the problem is this, right? If you're a company and you're a nonprofit, well, you don't pay taxes, right? From the government. If you're an official 501c3 nonprofit, you should not pay any taxes, and then therefore you should like not make a profit.
I think that's one of Elon's biggest complaints.
Well, yeah, I think that's a legitimate complaint, right? It's literally in the name, OpenAI, or like open sourced AI, and they used to open source all the models. They're doing all these things, and it's like, oh, yeah, we're doing this for the benefit of mankind. And then they started making money, and then after they started making money, they said, oh, about this whole nonprofit thing, let's just make this a for-profit. It's like, well, you can't do that. Like, make a new company, but don't have it under the nonprofit umbrella. Because if that was the case, if Sam Altman was actually able to make OpenAI a for-profit company, everyone would do that. Like, who would ever just start a company where you have to go pay taxes like some idiot? Like, just go create a nonprofit, pay no taxes, and then once you found your product market fit and raised $250 billion or whatever it is, then you can go, oh, whoopsie, we're actually a for-profit now. No, like, you can't do that. Just like you have to stick with your mission. Like, I'm like with Elon Musk on this one. And so Elon Musk, one of his contingencies says he will withdraw his offer if OpenAI stays a nonprofit. And I think that so I was doing like a little bit of a rabbit hole deep dive on this, and in the IRS they have this concept called inurement. I think that's saying it right, or it's known as like the private benefit of for charitable organizations. So the law says, and I'll just read it. It's not too long. A section 501c3 organization. So 501c3 is a nonprofit organization, which is what the parent company of OpenAI is, must not be organized or operated for the benefit of private interests, such as the creator or the creator's family, shareholders of the organization, other designated individuals, or persons controlled directly or indirectly by such private interests. No part of the net earnings of a Section 501c3 organization may inure to the benefit of any private shareholders or individual. A private shareholder or individual is a person having a personal and private interest in the activities of the organization. In other words, if you have a nonprofit, you cannot personally profit from it. So there were some numbers floating around, and some people were saying that Sam Altman was trying to buy essentially purchase OpenAI's nonprofit or something, and then turn it into a for-profit for $40 billion. Well, if Sam Altman turns down Elon Musk's $100 billion offer, saying, hey, that's a lowball offer, and then he goes around to sells them to himself, well, he's kind of sort of violating the law. Like, Sam Altman is violated the law, because now you can't possibly sell the nonprofit at that price, right? Because now it'd be kind of like, all right, this is really for the benefit of Sam Altman.
So he can't turn down Elon's offer and make a lower bid because that was benefit him.
Exactly. Unless they do some sort of, mental gymnastics to say why, Elon Musk is a big conflict of interest, bad for society or something, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, it seems like if you're going to do this, you'd have to sell it to the highest bidder. So I think that Elon Musk kind of is playing a little bit of 4D chess here and saying, hey, look, I don't think they're going to take the offer, but I'm going to make it so that if they want to turn this into a nonprofit, they're going to really have to overpay. So yeah, I have mixed feelings on Elon Musk. Like, so I think I, in general, agree with the sentiment from Elon Musk. I don't know if I like that this one guy has this much power.
You mean Elon or Sam?
Elon, right? I don't know if I like Elon having this much power. I mean, some people call this like a little bit of financial terrorism almost.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the fact that Elon Musk is building XAI, which also has some sort of crazy high valuation, and is one of the biggest data centers, and is actively making a for-profit AI company. This feels almost like an antitrust issue. I don't really like what Sam Altman's doing by trying to turn OpenAI into a for-profit. I think it should continue to be a nonprofit, and it should be for the benefit of mankind. But I also don't like Elon Musk is like, all right, let me just buy up all the competition and now we're just having the Elon company, and I'm just gonna be the god of all AI. And like I don't think I really like that either. I'm a big fan of Elon Musk for a lot of things, but this, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it.
I mean, I'm a big fan of both of them. I think they both are forces to be reckoned with. They have been pillars in the startup community, in the tech community. And I think, it is a little convoluted, the structure of OpenAI. But it kind of, they're just adapting to the nature of training these large models. When they initially established this company, what was like 10-ish years ago, they didn't envision what it would take to achieve AGI, or even, LLMs as we have it today. And as they realized that they need lots and lots of compute, lots and lots of data, which requires just tons and tons of money, they tried to adapt and figure out the best way to move forward. And they thought that, some kind of a mixed cap for-profit structure would make sense, but given how much of an impact that they've had on the global economy, I think they have to be a for-profit company. They have to figure out how to keep raising more money, maybe go public, get money from individuals to fund ongoing research and new models. So I think it kind of makes sense. It is a little weird that they took advantage of the nonprofit benefits. I think in my mind, it seems fair if they were to like go back and retroactively pay the government for any taxes or whatever that they might have incurred while they were a nonprofit and reaping the benefits of the structure. I think that seems like a fair compromise. Things change as long as they're consistent in their approach now, and try to, compensate whoever for any tax issues, tax liabilities. I think that's probably fair in my eyes.
Okay, I tend to agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that would be a reasonable compromise to say, all right, you can become a nonprofit. Now, I would prefer if OpenAI was open source and nonprofit, but no, fine. If they could maybe have some sort of penalty, plus pay any taxes that they would have owed.
So the one challenge I can think of is, given that they were a nonprofit, it seems like a lot of the funding that they received, a couple, I think like $100 to $200 million, from a lot of the initial investors, Elon being one of them, they didn't get any ownership of this for-profit company. So that's kind of tricky because they took a lot of money, did a lot of things, and none of the investments in the nonprofit gave the investors any share of the benefits from the for-profit company. So that is really tricky. And I feel like that's going to be impossible to reconcile, especially because there's so much money being poured from Microsoft and now SoftBank and probably tons of other companies that they're not going to be happy giving up any kind of ownership or shares to earlier investors.
Wow. I really feel like company structures are so important.
Oh yeah.
That because so we have a mutual friend named Roger Rappaport who really helps us out in a lot of our events. Actually, one of our earliest podcasts was interviewing him, and he helps a lot of companies.
From Snell and Wilmer.
Yes.
And they do great corporate law. And if you have a startup looking for advice and you're in the area in South Bay or Palo Alto Peninsula, check them out. Snell and Wilmer, with Roger Rappaport.
Yeah. So we are not paid to say this.
No.
We're just
big fans.
Yes, big fans. Like he's been a really wonderful friend in the meetup. So anyways, he said that he always likes to start with the companies really early, because he said that oftentimes the founders will come up with some sort of wacky corporate structure that he always has to go back and try to modify after the fact. So this feels like that times a billion.
Move. Literally.
Right? I feel like no one's gonna walk out of this feeling good, unless it's Sam Altman and he's able to buy OpenAI for $40 billion, which I don't know. He probably won't even feel that good because he'll probably be sued to oblivion, and he'll probably have some gray hair and shorten his life a little bit.
Especially with Elon being on Trump's side, I think it's gonna be dicey for OpenAI.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting time. So I don't know. We will keep you guys updated on these stories. I don't think we have a solid answer for what should happen. I feel like this one is tricky, and there's going to be a lot of court battles going forward, and a lot of people who will be very unhappy.
We'll try to get some lawyers' take on this before the next episode.
If we can, yeah. Yeah. Let's see what else we got on the news. ASML, weren't they? Did they do some kind of new, fancy, high-powered lithography machine? Really fancy, really small, 2 nanometers. What do you know about that, Shoshone?
That's the official name. Really fancy, small lithography machine. No, yeah, ASML, which is one of the pillars of this industry. They make the machines that help make the chips, that help make the models, that give you ChatGPT. So they announced a new machine that is capable of making sub 2 nanometer chips. And right now, the latest and greatest, the one that you have, the M4 chip from Apple has a 3 nanometer chip. So this is going to be at least 50% better or 50% smaller, which means it can pack more transistors, delivering more flops, more computation for the same amount of space, use less energy because, they don't have to pump as many electrons through the circuits because it's smaller, there's more efficient use there. So less energy overall, less cost to train these models, especially at scale. So I think it's fantastic overall. This doesn't happen too often. I think ASML makes these machines once every couple years. So this is exciting. Yeah. I think it'll probably take a while to roll out. They make the machines first, then the semiconductor fabricators like TSMC has to buy these massive machines. I think each one of them costs a couple $100 million, and it is massive. And so a handful of companies, I think Intel maybe also purchases these, but I'm not sure how they're doing right now and if they can even afford $100 million machine given how they're doing.
Yeah. Intel is a really interesting case study right now, right? Because Intel is another company that is having all sorts of issues because I think they just recently, last month or two, they fired their CEO, I believe. And also, Intel's been getting a lot of funding from the government in the CHIPS Act because I think one of the big problems that the United States has right now is they don't have a lot of domestic computer chip manufacturing. There's a lot of chip design being done in the United States, right? Like NVIDIA designs the chip, Apple designs some of their chips, Cerebras, Grok, Samba Nova, all the Qualcomm. A lot of these companies are designing chips inside the United States, but all these companies will then go to TSMC to go and make the chips. There isn't actually a whole lot of chip manufacturing inside the United States. I think Texas Instruments does some of the chip manufacturing. Actually, fun fact, the guy who used to be, or I don't know if he's still alive, but the guy who was the CEO of TSMC, he worked at Texas Instruments.
Oh, nice.
For I think 25 years or something. And that was actually one of the reasons why he. Oh, so is he alive still? I think he is. I feel
Morris Chang.
Morris Chang. Because I think what was he born? He was born in.
He's 93 years old.
93. Okay, so he is still alive. So good.
He was a VP of Texas Instruments.
Yeah, I feel bad not knowing if he's alive or not. But anyways, yeah. So he was a VP of Texas Instruments. I guess like part of the story is he wanted to be a CEO of Texas Instruments or CTO or something, and it never happened. Also, I think he felt a little bit discriminated because he was from Taiwan, and I believe he was in Texas for a long time. And he actually, I wonder if Jeff ended up working at Texas Instruments with him at the same time. We should ask him about that.
Okay.
So Jeff is another guy who comes around Meetup that we did a interview with. So in one of our previous podcasts, we can talk about him. But yeah, he worked at Texas Instruments. I don't know, maybe 20 years ago or something. Yeah. So there's a high likelihood that there was a little bit of overlap there. But yeah, so the Morris Chang, was that his name? Yeah. And so he started at Texas Instruments. He worked there his entire career. And then he decided that for multiple reasons that he didn't want to continue working at Texas Instruments. And then he started TSMC, and he decided that it made sense for him to start manufacturing chips in Taiwan. And there's a lot of benefits to that. He thought that the workers would work harder, they'd be more diligent, and also he didn't feel like there was any kind of like racism towards him in Taiwan because he was originally from there and not like some foreigner in a different land trying to start a company. So there's a lot of reasons why he went. I think there's a book around. I need to read it. But he went back to Taiwan to start TSMC, which is now like the 50,000 pound gorilla in the corner of the room, which is making all of the basically all the chips, right? And there's a few other companies that make it. Texas Instrument is one of them, and Intel, getting back full circle, was another company that was making a large portion of the chips. And now even Intel, I believe, is outsourcing some of their chip development to TSMC.
I have heard that, yeah.
Yeah. So Intel has a lot of fabs in the United States, and I really hope they succeed because from the outside looking in, I've heard that there's been a lot of kind of internal politics and problems at Intel. Some people have said that the suits, quote unquote, has started running the company, and I guess it used to be more engineering driven, and now it's a little bit more business driven, and just a lot of investors looking for a short-term profit. But I don't really know. We're not there. We're not on the inside. This is just us speculating from the outside. But the fact of the matter is Intel is losing market share. Their stock price is going down. And I think that the United States is really trying to save them because Intel is one of the only chip manufacturers in the United States that is, I mean, they can't compete with TSMC right now. Their chips are worse. But there is a lot of smart people who work there, and companies can improve, companies can change. They, as I mentioned before, they recently fired the CEO, so hopefully soon they'll find like good replacements and things will improve for the better. Because I really would like to see some more competition in the semiconductor space, right? So it's like, yeah, TSMC is really good, but I really personally don't like having just one company be the big daddy that is just making all the chips, right? Like it's similar to like AI right now. We have all these models coming out every couple of weeks, and there's a bunch of competition bringing the price down. The fact that there's only really one company that is doing all the latest and greatest stuff makes me scared. Now, I think there's nothing wrong with TSMC. I think TSMC is a good company. I don't have anything bad to say about them. But the fact that there's only one company kind of like really pushing the boundaries of chip development just makes me scared. And I really like to see some competition. So Intel, like I really hope your plant build out in, I think it's Dublin, Ohio, goes well. I hope it brings lots of jobs, and I hope you figure out your internal struggles, because like I'm really rooting for you. Like I want to see you succeed. When I first moved to Silicon Valley back in 2015, one of the very first things I did was go to the Intel Museum because I was so pumped about your company. Like, I really, really, really hate to see like a great American giant die. And I know Intel, you're on your last legs right now, but I'm speaking to you directly, Intel. Like, I want to see you succeed. Like, I have owned quite a few different Intel processors, and they're not all perfect, I think, but it was what I used, right? Like I grew up on Intel, and
I think most of the world did.
yeah, like I had a Pentium processor, I had an i7 processor, and it was great. Like I loved some of those computers. Like I learned to program on an Intel processor, and
Oh, really?
yeah, I did. I mean, I wasn't programming Intel processor. I was like programming Java, which is a couple layers of abstraction above it. But like my computer was a Dell and it had an Intel processor inside. Um, yeah. So come on, Intel. Like I'm rooting for you. Let's go, U.S. government. Like, come on, help Intel get back to life, and let's bring engineering back and manufacturing back in the United States again. I really want to see you guys compete with TSMC.
In the meantime, I was looking at TSMC's website to figure out where they are in the manufacturing process, and it says they're on track for developing the 2 nanometer chips and starting production in 2025. So that's kind of promising, and I think TSMC historically has been a company that sticks to its promises, unlike some over optimistic people, Elon. But yeah, there's a couple other manufacturers who buy these massive machines from ASML. Samsung is the other big one. They make tons of chips, a lot of memory, and there's a new competitor in China, obviously because of lots of restrictions, trade bans, and the geopolitical tensions China has with Taiwan. China decided to start its own semiconductor manufacturing company. They call it SMIC. And I think Huawei uses them to build chips. There's a couple other Chinese companies that use them. And I think they're making a decent amount of progress too. We were talking about competition. I think in general, people have mixed feelings about China, but competition in general is good. Is a good thing for the world.
Yeah, I think so. Now, there is an aside. You actually, so I'm going to go against exactly what I said. And then I'm going to talk about how competition is sometimes not required for the world. So
There are a lot of VCs who tout the benefits of monopolies. But yes, continue.
But I read this book, and I'm trying to remember the name, but it talked about the old company that was the Bell Labs, right? So they talked about Bell Labs. So Bell Labs was owned by Ma Bell, which was basically the almost a government sanctioned monopoly from the U.S. government that controlled almost the entire cell phone infrastructure in the entire United States. And they built all kinds of things. And because they were so big, they were able to do a lot of they were able to fund a lot of really hardcore and deep research that would help them go and how do I put this? That would help them with their business, right? Mm-hmm. So they would be able to fund, projects where they would say, oh, like what type of wood should we make this telephone wire, and like what's the rubber housing for this? And they would, pay a bunch of scientists to evaluate the different rubber of the coating of the telephone cables to see exactly how long it would last for. And they were actually fund a lot of that deep scientific research. And one of the most impressive and important inventions that they did was in their, I think it was the New Jersey lab, they invented the transistor. So then one of the employees at Bell Labs from Ma Bell, his name was something Shockley. It's gonna James Shockley, Albert Shockley.
William.
William Shockley, that's what it is. So William Shockley, he was working at Bell Labs. It seems like it wasn't just him, but there was a few folks who ended up working on the transistor. But he came over to, I believe it was Mountain View, California. And at the time, there was just a bunch of apricot trees. And he went there because that was his hometown. So he moved to New Jersey, worked on the transistor with a few other people. It seemed like it was a kind of a joint effort by a lot of scientists. And then, he created Shockley Semiconductor. And apparently he was a very hard person to work for and work with. So he went and made his company.
He went to Caltech, he went to MIT, worked at probably one of the best companies at the time, Bell Labs, and yeah.
So then he came over to basically was his hometown. He said, "I'm going to start my company here because this is where my family is and whatnot." And then he recruited a few people with him. Since he was hard to work for, a few people went and started new companies of their own. So it was because of him, like the quirk of him just being in from Mountain View, California. You can kind of trace the lineage from Shockley Semiconductor or Shockley Transistor, and then you can basically paint a picture to what we have today, which is Silicon Valley. And you have some of the most valuable companies in the world, and you could kind of make the argument that almost all these super mega valuable companies in the world, your NVIDIA, your Apple, your Google, all kind of started because of this guy, which started from a monopoly, Ma Bell. So I just was arguing for like open source, but I mean, monopoly has its place too.
I mean, I think just having resources at scale is really beneficial. It allows you to do things that no one else can. And I don't think it necessarily has to come in the form of a monopoly. I think a monopoly allows other things where you control the market entirely. And in some ways, consumers don't have choice. So it gives you some kind of manipulative powers. But in this tech world, it seems like there's a few mega corporations that you could consider monopolies or duopolies in some sense. But it's such a massive industry and it's constantly growing. Everyone everywhere is using tech, semiconductors, chips, and now AI models that even if you aren't a monopoly and you are a massive player like AMD, they have the resources to work on cutting edge things, pour a ton into research and see what comes out of it.
Yeah. I think that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Just scale, right? I say monopoly, but monopoly does have a lot of bad things. But I think ideally what you'd have is you'd have competition at scale. That's what I'd really like to see. I feel like that'd probably be the best of all the worlds. But yeah, actually, fun fact, one of the very first companies, so not Shockley Semiconductor, but Fairchild Semiconductor. Shashank and I actually ran a Gen AI meetup there. So there's a company at that building called Apex AI, and Apex was really gracious and actually hosting us. And they're actually live in the same building that Fairchild Semiconductor was in. So there's actually one of those California plaques right by it. I think there's I have a selfie of us right next to the plaque right after the meetup. And it felt like really holy almost to be in that.
Gave me goosebumps. Yeah. It was a very historic place. A lot of amazing things have been done there. And like Mark was saying, there was Shockley Semiconductor. A lot of the people from there left to start their own company, Fairchild Semiconductor. And then people from there eventually departed to form Intel. And, rest is history.
And then Intel, I really hope you do well because, you started this.
Yeah. That's a good full circle.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. I know we had a few more other topics, but I think we're kind of running out of time. So let's maybe call it for here because there is the meetup today.
Sounds good.
So yeah, guys, thanks for listening and we'll catch you in the next one.